It was one of those perfect summer afternoons, sun high, no wind, and the lake behind my house as smooth as glass. I'd been waiting for this day since I bought the place, the first real ride on my new jet ski. It had been sitting in my garage for 2 months, begging to be unleashed. The lake was the entire reason I purchased this property. Not the modern kitchen, not the home office with a view. The lake. It was deeded to my parcel, a rare feature in this HOA-bound neighborhood. And I made sure to confirm that detail with a real estate attorney before signing anything. I rolled the Kawasaki jet ski down my custom-built ramp, the hull hissing as it touched the water. I strapped on my vest, secured the kill switch, and with one push of the ignition, the engine came to life. The deep growl echoed off the shoreline. It wasn't deafening, but it definitely broke the silence. That's when the neighborhood started to take notice. I eased out into the center of the lake, slowly at first. Then, I throttled up. The machine leapt forward, slicing through the water, sending a trail of spray behind me. I carved tight turns, rode fast figure eights, and felt that pure thrill I hadn't experienced since I was a teenager. It was joy. Loud, unapologetic, water-spraying joy. But the looks started within 5 minutes. One neighbor, a woman in a white bathrobe and oversized sunglasses, stepped out onto her patio and held up her phone. She aimed it straight at me, recording. I waved, trying to keep things light. She didn't wave back. Another couple appeared by their fence, arms folded, whispering to each other and shooting me dagger eyes. One of them raised binoculars. Another started texting. It was like I had triggered a neighborhood alarm just by having fun. I didn't think much of it. Maybe some glares, maybe a passive-aggressive HOA email. But as I brought the ski in closer to the dock to take a breather, I saw a white sheriff's SUV pull into my driveway. 2 officers stepped out, scanning the area with that careful, professional neutrality. One called out, "Sir, can we have a word?" I nodded and walked up to meet them, water still dripping off my vest. "Got a call about noise disturbance," the officer said. "Also, reports of gas-powered vehicles being used on HOA property. Are you a resident here?" "Yeah," I said calmly. "This is my house. And the lake, it's mine too." He tilted his head. "The lake is yours?" I nodded again, a little firmer this time. "Not shared. Not part of the HOA's common property. It's fully deeded to this lot. I've got the paperwork if you'd like to see it." They glanced at each other. Something shifted. The tension eased, just slightly. I could tell. This wasn't going the way the caller had hoped. The officers followed me up the driveway, their boots crunching softly against the gravel as I led them toward the garage. I could feel the weight of their curiosity, and maybe even a bit of skepticism. This wasn't the first time they'd been called out by some HOA watchdog. Probably wouldn't be the last. But this time, the story had a twist, and I was more than ready for it. Inside the garage, I pulled down a labeled plastic tub from the shelving unit and retrieved the manila folder I kept specifically for moments like this. Property docs, full deed plus survey. I handed the top page to the first officer, the official deed, filed with the county, bearing all the signatures and stamps needed to shut down any argument before it began. "Here," I said, pointing. "Third paragraph. Lake and all associated riparian rights included as part of the parcel. Not designated as a common area or community amenity. Sole ownership granted to property owner." The officer read the paragraph carefully. His partner stepped closer and read it over his shoulder, nodding slowly. They didn't say anything at first, just took it in. "Mind if we verify this through dispatch?" one of them asked. "Go ahead," I said, handing over the rest of the folder. "I've got the land survey and the title insurance papers in there too. It's all consistent." They walked back to the SUV, documents in hand, radioing dispatch. I stayed back, leaning casually against the doorframe of my garage, arms crossed. I'd done my homework. This wasn't a bluff. I wasn't some guy trying to flex on a technicality. I owned that lake, every ripple of it. About 5 minutes into their verification process, I heard the unmistakable rumble of a luxury SUV. I didn't even have to turn around. I knew who it was. Margaret Carlisle, HOA president, self-appointed guardian of community order, and serial rule enforcer. She pulled up with the urgency of someone arriving at the scene of a crime, flung the door open, and stepped out like she was walking into a boardroom standoff. "Officers!" she called out as she marched across my lawn, a thick HOA binder clutched in her hands like a sacred scroll. "I'm glad you're here. We've had numerous complaints. This is a clear violation of the HOA's regulations. No motorized watercraft are permitted on the lake. Section 9C. Margaret," I interrupted calmly but firmly, "the lake isn't under HOA jurisdiction." She blinked. "Excuse me? The lake is private. It's deeded to this property. It's not part of the HOA's common areas. Never has been." One of the officers turned to her, holding up the deed. "We're verifying now, ma'am, but based on these documents, it appears the lake is indeed privately owned by the homeowner." Margaret's expression shifted from indignant to uncertain. She reached for the papers with trembling fingers and scanned the page. I watched her face tighten, her jaw clench ever so slightly. "This must be a mistake," she murmured, flipping pages like she could wish the language away. "No mistake," I said. "Everything was reviewed before I even moved in. Your bylaws don't apply to this lake." The officers handed me back the folder and gave a short nod. "Looks like everything checks out, sir. Sorry for the inconvenience." "No problem," I replied, smiling slightly. "Thanks for coming out." Margaret stood frozen, her binder now clutched against her chest like a shield. She didn't say another word. She just turned and walked back to her SUV, frustration radiating off her like heat. As the police pulled away, I glanced back at the lake. Still calm, still mine, and now, officially, untouchable. Margaret might have left quietly that afternoon, but anyone who's ever dealt with a stubborn HOA president knows retreat isn't surrender. It's strategy, and sure enough, it didn't take long before the real games began. The first sign was a letter slipped into my mailbox 2 days later. Not mailed, hand-delivered, on HOA letterhead. It read like it was drafted by a lawyer, but smelled like desperation. "Notice of violation, public nuisance and unauthorized use of shared environmental resource." I chuckled as I read it. There was no mention of the deed, no acknowledgement of what the police confirmed. Just a vague claim that my jet ski rides were incompatible with the community's peaceful atmosphere, and therefore subject to HOA fines. Attached to the bottom was a demand for $150 and a note stating I had 7 days to respond. I didn't respond. I didn't even consider it. Instead, I handed the letter to my real lawyer, an old friend I'd known since college who actually helped review my closing documents when I bought the house. He laughed too. "They don't have a leg to stand on," he said. "Let's shut it down properly." He drafted a formal cease and desist addressed to the HOA board and personally emailed it to Margaret's office and the entire HOA legal contact list. Attached were scanned copies of the deed, the parcel map, the property survey, and even the police report confirming the lake was private property. The language was professional, but unmistakably sharp. Any further attempts to regulate, fine, or intimidate the owner regarding the private lake will be met with legal action for harassment and trespass. I thought that would be the end of it. It wasn't. Margaret doubled down. She called for an emergency board meeting, the kind where everyone pretends something urgent is happening, but really just wants to whisper about the guy with the jet ski. She tried pushing a new bylaw that would prohibit all motorized activity within earshot of HOA properties, a transparent move to sneak around my deed. The meeting minutes were a comedy show. Several board members objected, pointing out the legal risks and reminding her that HOA rules couldn't supersede land ownership. Still, she pressed on. But her plans didn't go far. My lawyer sent another notice, this one citing county law, and listing potential damages if they tried, to enforce any rule that infringed on my private property. And that was when the rest of the HOA board started to back off, slowly, quietly. First, her proposal was tabled. Then it was under review. Then nothing. 2 weeks later, a county land assessor issued a formal statement to the HOA, clearly affirming that the lake was a private parcel and that no HOA member, rule, or president had any right to dictate its use. The silence after that was golden. A month passed. No more letters, no more angry stares. Even Margaret began avoiding me on the sidewalk. One day I saw her watering her front lawn, and when she spotted me heading toward my dock with my life, "Vest!" She turned away so fast she sprayed herself with the hose. I waited for the perfect day. Blue sky, warm air, no wind. I rolled out the jet ski again, lowered it into the lake, and gave it a slow rev just to hear that sweet hum. I eased out into the center, felt the water beneath me, and smiled. This time, no one called the cops, no binoculars, no angry HOA enforcer on a warpath. Just me, my lake, and